Hello and welcome to Alpha Militaria TV. Thanks very much for tuning in once again and seeing what we're up to. Now, if you'd like to support the channel, the best way, to be honest, is simply to subscribe to us because it really does help us out. But if you're feeling generous, you can also buy us a coffee. The details are down below. Now, the review today is slightly different. You may have seen a little while ago that I reviewed the Pard NV008S LRF, the new digital night vision product from Pard. Now that version was the version that had the laser rangefinder and also the ballistic calculator function as well. This version is exactly the same scope, but without that rangefinder and ballistic calculator function. Now there are countless videos online that show you all the features and all the functions, what all the buttons do and what have you, and they are on the whole very, very useful. So I'm not going to bother going through that. We will show you a few close-ups on the scope. But what I'm going to do is, I took this out hunting, well, rat shooting a few nights ago. As you can see, I put it on my Brocock Ranger XR. A small scope like this is ideally suited to a small rifle like this. And took it rat shooting. And what I thought I would do is I'd just recount some of the things that I learned or that stood out for me on that rat shooting trip. The first thing was the reticle. So to start with, I had the reticle on yellow, and when I reviewed the footage afterwards, sure enough, the first shot or two, the reticle was yellow. And then fairly early on in the night, I swapped over to a red reticle, which was great to use in the darkness, really stood out nice and bright. But when I came to look at the footage for that, the reticle had turned to a white one. Now, it mattered to me not a jot, to be perfectly honest, but something to be aware of. If you really want your footage to show a red reticle, then, it won't. Now, I also found that although this is the non-rangefinder, non-ballistic calculator model, the software clearly exists to enable those functions. And I found that if I press the button that on the rangefinder version would activate the rangefinder and the ballistic calculator, this scope here would try and deliver those functions as well. So the software obviously still exists, even though this is the non-LRF version. And what you get is you get a 0.00 range reading, and the little ballistic calculator cross comes up on the middle of your reticle. So if you find that, don't be confused thinking that you bought the wrong product or something. It's obviously just the software is enabled, even if the hardware isn't attached. Now, it's also worth playing with the flood setting on the integrated IR torch. I'll show you this in a second, but there's basically like a little short slide in, slide out on the lens, which will adjust the concentration of the actual IR light quite a bit. So it's worth just fiddling around with that to find out how narrow you want that beam or how wide you want that beam to suit the environment that you're shooting in. And I also found it was well worthwhile playing around with the different contrast and brightness settings, because it did affect the image that I was seeing through the scope, and you'll hopefully see that a little bit in the footage. And obviously that's going to vary from environment to environment. So it's just worth taking a few seconds just to twiddle it, to optimize it for the shooting situation that you're in. Now, I also found that the focus ring was very, very sensitive. I really like this little feature up here. Pard have put this little lever that folds away on the focus ring, making it very easy in the dark to twist the focus ring. Which is great, but I found that you only needed the tiniest little incremental movement on the lens on this collar here to make a difference, and it's very easy to go from too blurry to perfectly sharp to too blurry again. So you don't need massive changes on it, just tiny little incremental changes will be fine. And then finally, the battery. Now Pard will say that you'll get 8 hours of use from the 18650 battery, and one is supplied with the scope. And I think, to be honest, that is quite ambitious, because I certainly didn't get 8 hours use out of it. Now, obviously, it will vary depending on how much you use the IR torch for, whether you use it on level 1, 2, or 3, and how long you keep it on for. There is a very good sleep mode on this scope. The main power button, if you press that quickly, it will put it into a sleep mode. That'll obviously save you some battery, and then when you press it again, everything comes on in the same state that you left it at very, very quickly. So that is worth using. So those are those sort of key points that I found from my use with it. All in all, it was very, very easy to use. The buttons were very easy to find in the dark, and yeah, it worked absolutely fantastically. So what we'll do now is we'll zoom in on a few of the features in close-up, then we'll show you the night vision footage from that rat shooting trip. Okay then, let's go straight to that footage from my rat shooting trip the other night. Well, I hope that was interesting and helpful for you. If it was, please hit the like button and subscribe as well. And don't forget to check out our website, alphamilitaria.com. Thanks for watching.